In this video, we're going to be learning about how to create the Gen AI, your own personal customized AI with Python programming. So the first thing you have to do is that, because for this section, we're going to be making use of the Gemini SDK. And for that, the first thing you need to do is that you have to get the Gen AI API key. Then after that, you have to put it in environment variable, ENV. But if you are making use of Google Colab, you just need to put it in secrets. So there's a particular box there called secrets. If you look at it here, we have secrets. Then after that, we need to install the Google SDK, Gen AI SDK. Then after that, we just need to develop it. So the first thing, in order to get the Gemini API, you can just search for Google AI Studio. So just click on it. So make sure that your account is not on child mode, because if it's actually on child mode, you won't be able to create your API key. So after that, you just need to go to get API key. You click on it. Then you see create API key. Then you click on it. Then whatever key that actually comes out, then you copy it. You put it in your environment variable. So in the case of VS Code, you put it in .env. Never you put your API key inside your source code. But in the case of where you are using Gen AI, you just need to put it inside the secret here. So you give it a variable name, then you assign the key. You assign it the key. So in order to load it in, what you just need to do is that from Google Colab, you just need to say from google.colab, you're going to say import user data. So if you run it now, it's going to run. Okay, I think I did a mistake. It should be Colab, not Colab. So in order to load your key, you just need to say user data.get. Then you pass in whatever variable name you use to store that particular key. So in my own case, I just make use of this to store it. So I don't want it, because if I want it, my API key is going to be exposed, and I don't want that. So I'm just going to say API key equals to this. So if I actually want it now, it's going to run. And so the next thing is that you have to, if you're working on Colab, you need to just import the Gen AI SDK. But if you're going to make it of VS Code, so you need to install it by having a pip install then Google Gemini. So you just need to install it with this line of code. But if you're making use of Colab, it's already installed. So what you just need to do basically is that you just need to import it. I'm going to say from Google import Gen AI. Then I'm also going to import, in order to configure our Gen AI, you need another package there, which is called the types. So let's say from Google.Gen AI import types. So if you want it now, okay, I think types, okay. Okay, sorry, I did a mistake. I made a mistake, yes. This has to be from. I'm so sorry about that. So once you've done that, so let's try to instantiate our model. So I just need to say Gen AI dot client. Then inside here we have a parameter. So you can see we have so many parameters. Let me try to check. Okay, so you can see we have one parameter here, which is API underscore key. So our API underscore key is going to be equal to whatever API key we set here, which is API key. Very good. So we call it. Let's just call it my AI. So if you want it now, it's going to run. So you can see that we have it now. So after that, so what we need to do is that we need to more like create our system instruction. So our system instruction is more like how you actually give the Gen AI more like a to actually personalize it. So just to say for system instruction. So the system instruction actually contains some elements, but some of the most important elements is that we have what we call the row, which is more like you have to define the row, the row of that particular chatbot. You have to define so you define the row. You can give it a name. Then also you can actually give it how the output is going to be like. Then you can also introduce some constraint as well. So let's say for instance, maybe I actually want to develop a chatbot that actually answers more like Python questions. So I just need to say something like you are giving it a persona now. You are let's call it dynamic AI. So what is the role? So your role is to answer Python questions. So what is going to be the output? So we can actually output your response in form of JSON, and okay, in form of JSON, or let's just say text, just text, and use emojis. And we can also give it constraint as more like an example. So I don't think I'm having any example. You can actually think of the example as more like a template. So it's going to understand how the response is going to be like. So also let me just try to do that. It's going to be something like for example. So let me make use of triple quotes so that you can actually see my screen. So I'm going to drop it down here. So for example, something like hello, dynamic TECHNOCRAT. Then we can actually have the emoji here. So more like the emoji is going to be here. But in this, I have to put the emoji directly. Then after that, so you can also specify what the constraint. You can actually say something like response should be 50 less than, let's say 30 characters. 30 characters. So if I run it now, it's going to run. So in order to actually connect your system instruction to this Gen AI, so we need to put it in the config. So what you just need to do is that in order for us to actually define the configuration, you make use of types. So you just need to say types dot generate. That's the content. So we are using this method there called the config. Then inside that we have so many parameters. So one of the parameters is actually the system instruction there. So we have what we call the system instruction. And with the system instruction, we can just set it to be our system instruction that we define there. Then if you have any other thing like thinking, you can actually incorporate it there. Then also another parameter is what we call the temperature. So you can set the temperature to be 0.3. So the essence of temperature is to actually bring some kind of creativity. So if the temperature is 0, that means that the AI is going to respond in a more likely the way people normally respond. That is going to be kind of not really deterministic because AI are actually probabilistic in nature. But if you set it to be equal to 0, is 0. So that means you are going to be getting response that are similar to more like that are kind of being used by most people. But if the you actually set the response to be closer to something like 1 or let's say 0.8, so what it's going to do is that out of 3 more like prediction of word, because it's actually next word, more like next word prediction. So the AI is going to kind of choose from less word with lowest probability. So we can just align that to a configuration. We call it config. Also this. Okay, I think I made a mistake. This should be n. So how do we actually connect it? We just call my AI. Then we'll call on the chat.create. Then inside it. So inside this particular parameter, you have a parameter called model. So Gemini is having so many models. So you can just try to visit the Gemini model. You see, we have Gemini 2.5 Flash, 2.50, 3.5, I think so. So I'm going to be making use of Gemini 2.5. So that'll be 2.5. That'll be 2.5 Flash. Then I'm going to be for the configuration. I'm going to set it to, let me just call it my configuration so that it won't confuse you guys. So we have my config, which is this. So I have to save it in a variable. And let's call it my model equals to this. So if I want it now, it's going to 1. So if I actually want to communicate with this model to send more like a question, I just need to say my model. I just need to say send underscore message. So inside this place, I'm going to pass in my question, which is what is Python. So I can just save it in a response. If I want it now, it's going to 1. So if I actually want to get a response, if I call on response now, you'll see that it's going to bring out so many stuff here. So you can see that we have the candidate, we have a lot of parts. So we have the text. So this is where the response normally stored. It's under the text. So if you actually want to get it out, you just need to say response.text. So if you run it now, you see that now we have the response. Code language, is responding based on the constraint, which I said it should be less than 30 characters. 30 characters. So if actually asked let's make it kind of 100 characters. I'm going to run it again. Then ask the same question. Then also I'm going to trigger the doc test. You can see that it's now less than 100 characters. Python is a high-level interpreted language. So if I ask another question like what is Python data analysis? If I run it now, it's going to try to generate that, and if I try to get a response, you see that we have Python data analysis uses this. So this is basically how to create your own AI, personalized AI for your company. But in the case, when it comes to organization, you might need to have this like make use of an API, more like create an endpoint for your program, so that you can actually communicate with it effectively. So when it comes to production level. So thank you so much. And if you have any questions, you can just drop it in the comment box. Thank you.